What's up, people, and welcome to... What's up, people, and welcome to... Oh, shit. What's up, people, and welcome to Unnostalgic Reviews, the show where I...
TGX.
Review an old game that I've had no prior experience with and with a fresh perspective tell you, does it hold up, and does it pass the nostalgia test?
Grand Theft Auto. A simple name, a simple concept. Be a criminal and do whatever the hell you want. Hands down, the most controversial game series in history, even with arguably worst games from Carmageddon to Mortal Kombat X, all eyes seem to come back to Grand Theft Auto time after time. Here's to you, Jack Thompson, you fucking twat. Oh wait, I should probably shut up before he sues me 8 fucking times! Although I think Penny Arcade put it the best when they said, we should be grateful for Jack Thompson because if he steps down, somebody competent might take his place. Even despite the controversy, this series has produced more hours of fun than most series can only dream of. Grand Theft Auto 3, an early genre definer. Grand Theft Auto 4, one of the most finely crafted stories in video game history. Vice City, pure flamboyant enjoyment. And then San Andreas, the closest humanity's ever gotten to a second coming of Jesus.
But let's forget about all of that and go back to 1997 when Rockstar North was still called DMA Design and explore the origins of this controversial series with the simply named Grand Theft Auto. Does it hold up? Does it pass the nostalgia test? Let's find out. What's that dead person smell? Nostalgic Reviews.
As the game begins, you spawn in a remote part of Liberty City with nothing but a simple instruction to find a payphone to get a job. This game is presented with a top-down view similar to Bomberman or Gauntlet, the reason for that being that by 1997, the PS1 was starting to show its age much like Walt Disney, and given the restrictions of its 32 bits of mightiness, a fully 3D third-person sandbox game was nearly impossible at the time. As for the game itself, shall we say that the PS1 isn't the only thing showing its age? Which is not to say this game is ugly, I mean, this is ugly. But as this game had 3D environments with mostly 2D characters and vehicles, it looked fine in 1997 and still looks fine in 2017. But the portion of this game that hasn't aged well are the mechanics. Which is a diplomatic way of saying,
this game controls like my ass after Taco Bell.
Which is a diplomatic way of saying,
this game controls like shit.
Which is a diplomatic way of saying,
enough!
First of all, the movement. This game is tank controlled. You steer left and right on the D-pad and press X to go forward. Let me list all of the reasons this doesn't work. 1. This game is top-down, not 3D. In games like Tomb Raider or Grim Fandango, it makes sense to have tank controls because you're in a 3D environment, and before analog sticks, working good camera controls into 3D games was hell. And so tank controls make sense as it's a functional compromise between controlling the player and controlling the camera, but using 3D tank controls in a 2D environment is like playing Dance Dance Revolution drunk. You have the most tremendous difficulty accurately turning or moving forward. You're constantly wasting ammo because you can't orient yourself properly, and if there's somebody coming from behind you, it takes a few fiddly seconds to turn around, at which point you're already wasted. 2. The camera is fixed into this position, and so tank controls can get very confusing in the heat of the moment. Like, if you're driving south, do you press left to go left or right to go left? Swapping controls in the middle of a police chase is a good way to make me break my controller. And 3. Pressing a button to move forward as opposed to a directional button just feels stiff and unnatural. Even the worst tank-controlled games remember that the forward directional button should move you forward. Having X move you forward just feels wrong, like wrestling a bag of warmed-up peas.
The fuck is wrong with me?
The camera's not a team player in this game either, because not only is it locked into position, thereby swapping your controls at the worst of times, but it also does this zooming effect the faster you go, which makes sense in theory because you need to see more as you go faster so you have more time to react. But there's only 2 speeds in this game, 0 or Sanic. So you have 2 choices. Constantly tap the speed button to maintain a decent speed so the camera's jittery and then get motion sickness. Or go as fast as you can, crashing into everything, fucking up the camera, and giving you motion sickness.
Don't worry guys, it's just squash soup.
As for the driving itself, the buttons are mixed up. You press square to steal a car and triangle to brake and go backwards. I understand that this was the first in the series, but this is just common fucking sense. Accelerate is X and brake is square because they are right next to each other. Having to reach triangle might not seem like a big deal, but it's a minor inconvenience and confusing in the heat of things, and that is something you don't need in the middle of a police chase. This and all these minor inconveniences add up, and that's what this game's controls are like. Just a series of minor inconveniences that by themselves mean nothing, but added up.
Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
God damn it. You also die way too easily in this game. In say GTA 4, you were a tank and could roughly take as much punishment as Somalia, but in this game, sometimes you take as little as one bullet before you're wasted. And then if you get set on fire for like a second, you're wasted. All this game is just you getting wasted. And then there are these dumbass cops who shoot you on sight if you so much as brush past their cars, but if they see you jacking a car, they don't give a shit. So they don't care unless you fuck with them, and then when you do, they kill you.
Wait, Liberty City is a parody of New York. It all makes sense now.
Not only that, but you can't get away from them unless you go to a pay and spray. If you can get away without it, I don't know how. Another thing that pisses me off is that when you need the roads to be empty to get around, they're never empty, but when you need them to be full of traffic to start a rampage, they're almost always empty. And even when you're at a level 4 wanted level, sometimes the cops just don't show up. You know, maybe it's just me, but the traffic is never what I want it to be.
Unintentional rhyme.
And then there's the directional system. To find what you're looking for, you have a navigation arrow, but the arrow doesn't account for bodies of water, dead ends, or broken bridges. There's no in-game map either, so you have to intuit everything yourself, and so this leads to getting lost over and over and never finding what you want. Oh, and did I mention some of these missions have time limits? Not even usually for the mission itself, for the transitional period between missions. Why the Palpatine would anybody think this is a good idea? You know, if you want a key example of all of these mechanics working in a top-down GTA, look no further than Chinatown Wars. A dynamic active camera constantly spawning cars, a good amount of health, auto lock-on, non-cryptic directions, and more. This game's mechanics could have easily worked, and Chinatown Wars is proof of that. I understand they were made in different eras, but come on, one of them's on a handheld system in 2010, so comparatively they can't be that different power-wise. Besides, this was 1997. If by 1997 they couldn't do a basic rotating camera or a minimap, or at the very least competent controls, then I don't know what to say. Something that really doesn't matter is that you honk your horn if you press R2, fair enough, but then if you press it when you're not in a car, this happens.
Very mature, DMA. Hold up. That is just begging for a remix.
And worst of all, there's a dreaded live system. Once again, I need to explain that live systems are best used when they don't set you back a ridiculous amount. In this game, if you die or get arrested too many times, you get sent back to the main menu and have to start the level over again. And some of these levels can last upwards of an hour or more. Could you imagine a system like this in later GTAs? No? Then it's a good thing they got rid of them.
You know, I've been way too harsh on this game. Like, I've done nothing but rail on it for like the past 10 minutes. You know, something's gotta be good about it. Like, how's the story?
I would summarize the story, but there doesn't seem to be one. Basically, you work for 6 different people, 2 in Liberty City, 2 in San Andreas, and 2 in Vice City, each of which tells you to piss off after you do an arbitrary amount of work for them.
Yay, plot!
And you never move beyond basic mobster, so there's no progression. You just do the same missions over and over again until you're kicked to the curb, rinse and repeat. It has no structure, few named characters, and even less interesting ones. In fact, I'm not entirely convinced this game doesn't even have a proper credit sequence because the story never ends, nor does it begin. It's is like a Mobius strip.
If only I knew what that meant.
It's like you're living the daily life of a mobster, except that you get passed around like the prison bitch, so it's more like living the daily life of Pauly Shore. The lack of character dialogue or engagement means there's very little motivation to do any of the missions or do anything beyond blowing shit up. You don't even have a character because you can pick from multiple characters with no discernible difference between any of them beyond the name.
Oh god, no. Well, come on, there has to be something good about this game. You're right.
One of the game's what I begrudgingly call a shining star, as always, is the soundtrack. The radio stations are car-specific, like the trucks only play country music, for example, but even the worst songs are catchy and memorable. Another shining star are the cheats. They are plenty and very useful, such as maximum points, unlimited lives, no wanted level, high wanted level, goat mode.
Now this is realism.
And more. And if there's one thing that's really entertaining, it's that when you die, the funniest thing happens. It's like an entire crowd was like, ah, shit, dude, he dead. It gets better when you replace the sound clip. Or better yet, another thing I quite like is the diversity in the locations. Being able to drive around in the vastly different Vice City, Liberty City, and San Andreas is a treat.
Well, it makes sense. I've been trapped in this room for most of my life. Maybe I should go outside. Never mind.
But honestly, the biggest positive that this game has going for it is the kill sprees. Just like most games, it's just fun to mow down hundreds of screaming pedestrians like squeezing a giant stress ball made out of blood and pus. Yeah, take it, you fucking mortals! My balls have teeth!
Lag. Pow, bam, yeah!
There's just something about the screams of pedestrians, the buildings lighting on fire, the splats of the dead bodies, and the prominent explosions that makes kill sprees in this game so satisfying. Does that make me a bad person? Yes. Blood and Pus sounds like a bad early 2000s metal band.
We are blood and pus, we are blood and pus, we only strum two chords and sing about angsty shit. I'm gonna cut you on my edge.
Fuck, that hurt.
Perhaps this game becomes good if you judge it as a fuck-aroundy simulator, and for what it's worth, it's kind of fun in that regard. It's somewhat fun, and somewhat is the operative word there, to screw around, but that's not what this game should be about. If it wanted to be a fuck-aroundy simulator, then why did it have a really weak linear story? Postal, for example, is similar, but it doesn't attempt any sort of story. It just gives you a set of tools and tells you to go nuts. But this game attempts to be more than that. It attempts to be a gangster simulator with a set of missions working for higher-up mobsters, but what do all the good gangster simulators have in common? Good stories, varied gameplay, starting from the bottom and working your way up to mob boss, vehicle variety, good characterization, hookers, and more. Little, if any of this is present in the first Grand Theft Auto, not to mention the fact that just on the base mechanics alone, this game plays like absolute crap. These mechanics may have been fine in 1997, but due to the advancement in technology and design philosophies of today, this game has been rendered obsolete. A lot of old games are still fun to play because they hold up mechanically, like Super Metroid, but some games only worked when they came out because the technology of the time limited what they could do and forced heavy compromise, like GoldenEye for example, meaning when technology advances to the point that those limitations no longer existed, said games become outdated. The first Grand Theft Auto is unfortunately like that, obsolete, and as such has aged poorly and does not hold up. While it may have the spark of Grand Theft Auto, sparks are only good if you use the right fuel. Just ask my neighbors.
And that is why Grand Theft Auto does not pass the nostalgia test. The fact is that it can still be a fairly fun game and is by no means a bad game.
Nope, redacted. This game is absolute shit.
It just doesn't hold up as well as it could have. It's a mediocre game that could have been a great game had they done more future-proofing. It doesn't matter how good this game was in 1997, all that matters is that it doesn't hold up in 2017. And that's why I have to do what I have to do.
smile, you son of a...
Hold up, what the actual fuck was that? What happened? What was wrong with me in 2015?